Welcome back to Speducation. I am your host, Brandon Reed, and a special welcome to anyone that's new to the channel. Well, we have a new week and a new lesson. So, what is that lesson? Well, let's dive in and find out. Today's lesson, related services. Now, when people in special education talk about related services, parents might be wondering, what are related services? Are they important? Do they help my child? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. So let's look at what related services are. Related services help children with disabilities benefit from their special education by providing extra help and support in needed areas, such as speaking or moving. There's even a specific spot in the IEP for related services. It's right here. Now, related services is just like special ed services. It's set up the same way. When we talk about related services, we talk about what is the related service that the student will be provided. Then we talk about what is the delivery recommendations? How will it be delivered? So is it going to be individual? Is it going to be small group? If so, what is that small group going to look like? Then we talk about the frequency. How often will the student be receiving services? Is it once weekly? Is it once monthly? Okay. If it's twice, then we need to put that in there. And then the duration, the length of the session. So whenever they do meet, how long will that be? Will it be for 10, 20, or will it be for 30 or 40 minutes? And then it's also important to document where the location will be. So in this case, it would be in a therapy room, but it could be in the hallway. It could be in a resource room, wherever the student and the related service provider are able to find a location. And then last but not least is the projected service dates. So typically in an Indiana IEP, the service date would be here, and then it would be here. And it would say, this is when the service date begins, this is when the service date ends. In this case, it's saying that the service date will begin on 9/7/10. And typically with IEPs, they cover a year long. So if the service started on 9/7/10, then it would continue until 9/7/11. So now that you know what related services are, what do they actually cover? What are some of the related services that are provided to students in special ed? Related services include, but are not limited to, speech language pathology and audiology services, interpreting services. This is for students that might be deaf or hard of hearing and require an interpreter, such as a sign language interpreter, psychological services, physical and occupational therapy, recreation, including therapeutic recreation, early identification and assessment of disabilities in children. This is typically done through a program called First Steps. Counseling services, including rehabilitation counseling, orientation and mobility services, medical services for diagnostic or evaluation purposes, school health services and school nurse services. This is for any student that might have medication that requires them to take it at a certain time of day, and the school nurse is the one that would be prescribing those, or at least providing those to the student. Social work services, and parent counseling and training. So in summary, related services are services that are provided in addition to the special ed services that the student is already receiving. And based on the related service, the school may need outside help if they don't already have the staff in the building. However, many schools have staff that are already in the building that can provide these related services, such as school nurses, speech and language pathologists, counselors, social workers, and even interpreters. But if they don't have those services, then they may need to contract them out or hire somebody on a temporary basis to help with those students. So now hopefully you have a better understanding of what related services are and how they might relate to your child. Because again, remember, each child is different. So if you have questions, feel free to ask the school about what related services might be needed for your child if you feel that they are needed. And what will we be covering next week? Well, next week's lesson is acronyms again. Now, we've already covered acronyms before, back in October, I believe, and there were a lot of acronyms in special education. Now, we couldn't cover it all in one video, but I promised that we would come back to it. So next week, we're going to look at some of the acronyms that we weren't able to cover in the very first video. Now, if you liked what you saw, please click the like button. And if you want updates on future videos, feel free to click the subscribe button and ring the bell for updates on future videos. And as always, if you have questions or comments, please feel free to post those in the comments section. And please make sure to share this channel with others that might benefit. And until next time, class dismissed.